Do you want to learn about character design? Or maybe you want tips to help your character designs look better? Well, I'm here to share the entire curriculum of a character design class I took as an animation major. So, if you do these assignments, you basically took the class yourself. Like, actually. Okay, here's every assignment I had in my character design class. I will also throw in some design tips and principles, stuff that we learned along the way to help with our character designs. Everything I'm about to say, I learned in this class. Okay, let's get started. You're late. Okay, our first assignment was the anatomy assignment. And I'm gonna call this assignment 0 because this is basically just a warm-up. Design a anatomically focused character design. Draw a character in their underwear. Okay, that was a joke. You don't have to literally draw a character in their underwear. You could draw a skin-tight suit or stuff like this. The point of this assignment is to get feedback on our anatomy skills before diving into the rest of the class. But at this point, all of us students had taken life drawing and gesture drawing, so we kind of had some practice of drawing anatomy and, stylizing the human form. But if you need to practice anatomy, there's plenty of online resources and references. Google Images, Pinterest, Instagram. You could go to a life drawing session. There's yourself. You could use yourself as a reference. You could pose for photos. If you need a hand reference, you literally have 2 of them right in front of you. Okay, I'm gonna have a drink of water after that. Unfortunately, I couldn't find my anatomy assignment from the character design class, so I don't really have an example. You could just practice figure drawing or do fan art for this assignment if you want, but feel free to take this opportunity to come up with your own idea for a character. That's what we did in the class. That's what we were supposed to do. Moving on. When you think about caricatures, you might imagine those caricature artists at carnivals that draw people really funny. And that's pretty much what this assignment is, honestly. It's one thing to capture someone's likeness in a drawing, but it's another to severely exaggerate their facial features. You've ever seen those recap cartoons by Cass Vanderpool? I mean, you probably have. He has millions of views. But he does really good caricatures. Honestly, drawing a good caricature can be kind of tricky. Isn't it crazy that you can look at this picture and think, oh yeah, that's Nicolas Cage? Isn't that weird? It's hard to explain how to draw a successful caricature. You just have to try it for yourself. But it's all about exaggeration. You can try it with celebrities or other characters. You could also practice with anyone. My professor recommended earthsworld.com, where you'll find a big collection of candid photographs to use as reference. My caricatures aren't the best. I definitely could have pushed the exaggeration way further. By the way, for every assignment, we had to do 2 of them. Here's my second one. Let me know if you can tell what celebrity this is. Any questions so far? No? Okay, well, okay. Well, you might be wondering, why do we have to draw caricatures in a character design class? Obviously, it's valuable to practice drawing the human body. But if you can then learn how to exaggerate and how to push and pull those human features into different shapes, you can use that skill to design characters that will communicate different feelings to your audience. This is called shape language. Shape language in art and animation is the concept that different shapes communicate different feelings. Circles are soft and friendly. Squares are solid and sturdy. And triangles are pointy and dangerous and bad. I don't know if there's any science behind this, but I'm pretty sure this concept is just built into humans. You can show anyone Geometry Dash, and they will immediately understand that the triangles kill you. The most straightforward example of shape language and character design is the emotions in Inside Out. In my class, we talked about shape language a lot, and it came up constantly, so it's important to know this early on. Our next assignment... Heroes! Whoa! In game development, a hero asset is any asset in the game that the player is going to focus on a lot, like the character you're playing, which is always on screen, or a weapon, or maybe an NPC that interacts with you a lot. These assets are always given way more attention from the artist because they're the parts the audience is going to see the most and most likely remember. They are the defining elements of the game from a visual standpoint. So in the context of my character design class, the point of the hero assignment isn't necessarily to draw a superhero, but to design a main character, a protagonist, someone memorable and iconic. If you can take a character and zoom out and still recognize them from their silhouette alone, this is very hard to do, by the way. It takes a lot of practice and iteration. Here's what I turned in for the first design. I did this guy, who I imagine is trying to start a rock band. He's a big fan of rock music. He has a signed band t-shirt that he wears and then never washes. A teenage kid with big dreams. I feel like it's giving main character. What do we think? My second hero design, which didn't get as fleshed out, is like this dragon spearman. I think maybe he magically slays dragons with his spear / club thing. I don't think he feels main character-y. He looks more like a sidekick, which was an option for this assignment, by the way. You could do 2 different hero designs, or you could design a hero and a helper, which would be like a sidekick or a side character to the main character. Anyway, whatever. Go crazy. And cut. All right, I think we got it. Good job, guys. You can take 5. Oh, finally. Next up, film and TV. We had to design one character as if for a film and one for a TV show. Disclaimer. In the animation program I went through, everything was taught through the lens of getting employed in the Western animation industry. If that doesn't resonate with you or align with your goals, that's okay. I'm just saying this now because some of the things we learned in this unit don't apply to the anime industry or the indie scene, for example. That's all, carry on. My biggest takeaway from the film and TV assignment is to know your audience. What is the demographic you're drawing for? Toddlers, teens, adults? I don't think I have to say that character designs for Paw Patrol the movie are going to look a lot different from designs for Love, Death, and Robots. But I guess I just said it. So there you go. Whenever someone would turn in an unsuccessful character design, my professor would sometimes be like, "Who is this for?" I think it's important to have a target audience in mind if you're designing a character for a project that you want other people to consume. Maybe you want to draw a webtoon or create an indie animated series. Consider the type of person that will probably be interested in your project, and maybe that will help you narrow your focus and gear the project towards them. You can draw for yourself and be your own target audience, by the way, so don't get too consumed by this concept. It's just another tip you can file away in that little brain of yours. Or big brain of yours. Here's my film and TV designs. For film, I thought of this young girl character who can teleport through these magical books. Something you'd see in a Disney or DreamWorks movie for kids. And for TV, I did this funny steampunk guy. Maybe he's like a steampunk detective. Art style wise, I looked to Gravity Falls for inspiration. Maybe a bit of Steven Universe. I don't know, I don't have too much of a backstory for these characters, so I kind of just drew until the vibes were good. The biggest difference between characters in film and TV is that TV designs are usually much simpler and easier to animate since TV is typically lower budget. Again, this doesn't always apply. In fact, this probably doesn't apply anymore at all. So, and then the anime industry is a whole different thing. Like, we're gonna move on now. Hey, can we talk? I have to tell you something. This wasn't a character design class. I lied to you. The class was called Visual Development and Character Design. Characters were the main focus, but visual development covers environments, architecture, props, and vehicles. For the vehicles and robots assignment, you could draw a car, a spaceship, a Honda Odyssey. Actually, don't draw a Honda Odyssey. You're supposed to design your own thing. It's a design class. Here's some van designs I did. This is supposed to be in the same world as my hero design. Maybe this is the van he drives with his bandmates, all messy and punk and graffitied. For drawing cars. Okay, please, I beg of you, don't forget to look at reference. Don't forget. Cars have rear view mirrors. Don't forget to draw the rear view mirrors. They have bumpers. Chairs, a dashboard. It's these little details that will make your car design feel like a car and not just a rectangle thing with wheels. But you could draw any vehicle for this assignment. The point is to design technology. You don't even have to know anything about technology or engineering. If you're drawing a sci-fi spaceship, you could just add, quote, greeble. Yes, greeble. There's a Wikipedia page about greeble, a term coined by none other than George Lucas himself.
I may have gone too far in a few places.
Greeble is little details, little doodads and thingies that you can add to a spaceship to make it look like a convincing high-tech vehicle. Here's like a basic circle with thingies and like a oval on the side. Now add greeble. And there you go. It's the Millennium Falcon. You don't have to know how every element works. Like, does anyone know what this thing does? I sure don't. Drawing robots is really fun because you get to combine technology with character design. Here's one of my robot designs. I have no story for him. I just wanted to draw a cute robot. And then I drew this other robot. I had the idea of an evil stalker robot, so I looked at surveillance cameras and used that as inspiration for the design. Animals. It's right behind me, isn't it? For this assignment, draw a character design of an animal. Yep, that's all there is to it. Not like a wild animal, but like something you'd see in Zootopia, like a character. Here's my first one. I did a tortoise who is also a wizard. You've heard me say it a lot. I'm gonna say it again. Make sure you look at reference, because animal anatomy is very different from human anatomy. Usually, in most cases. You know what's funny? My professor was like, please no furries for this one. But this is my video, so go crazy. Draw your persona if you must, if you really have to. Here's my second design. I did a corgi, but I made him old. Like he's seen too much. He's sick of your bull. Next. With villains, notice that many of them have a pointy and angular shape language. You might remember that sharp corners and triangles communicate danger. Sometimes it's very subtle, but you should still be able to pinpoint why certain villain designs feel villainous. So here's my first design. I imagine she's like a fallen angel necromancer. She has potions that she can use to raise the dead or something. I think a good villain design carries a sense of power and authority. Something about their design needs to feel uneasy, not scary necessarily, though they can look scary. Just that something is going on beneath the surface, maybe a sense of mystery or unknownness. If you're ever stuck designing a character, like you're not even sure where to begin visually, my professor recommended writing. Write as much as you can about the character. Think of specific words to describe them, or write a backstory for them. Once you're in the character's headspace and you've determined what they should feel like, you can transform those feelings into shapes and angles, and eventually you'll have the beginnings of a character design. I had this idea for an evil queen character for my second design, taking inspiration from roses and thorns. I also did this butler guy. He looks pretty sus, but I scrapped it. He's very boring. Alright, we can take a little break. We can take a breather. Okay. This was a quick little in-class exercise we did one day. A good character designer should be able to pick up someone else's art style, so this exercise gave us practice doing that. Our professor showed us concept art from the movie Brave, and instructed us to draw our own character in the same style who might belong in the same world. If you've ever drawn like a Sonic OC, then great, you've already done this assignment. Environments are really fun. Personally, I love drawing backgrounds and stuff, so I liked this assignment. First, we had to draw what our professor called an organic population. An organic population is like a cluster of nature, like a little vignette of plants and trees and rocks and nature. The idea is that if you wanted to design a forest for a project, it would be a lot easier to design a little slice, a little corner of the forest first. You'd have to design all the plants and organic matter that populate the area. The work of Marcel Hampel is a really good example. Here's mine. We had to sketch out 4 of them. I even painted one of them, so here's that. This organic population exercise is also helpful because designing a tree by itself doesn't feel as useful as designing it in context. When you draw clusters of things, it gives you a better idea of the scale. Then we did a larger environment piece, and I had this idea to design a really cool shaped mountain with a little house at the top. This was my first pass, but I wanted to make some changes to the shapes, so Here's my second pass with color added. But then someone in my class said this section looked phallic. So I changed the shape a little bit and added more details, and here's the final. So yeah, okay. Make sure your design doesn't look phallic, okay? Here's another tip for you. Now is also a good time to bring up another principle that my professor drilled into our heads on day 1. Iteration. Your first pass at a design is probably not going to be your greatest version of that design. So have patience, draw some different versions, try different shapes and colors, and get feedback from others. And by the end of all that, you will most likely have a way better design. All of my designs evolved a lot and had plenty of iterations before I landed on the version I submitted for class. Unless I was lazy that week. But yeah. Okay, next. Props? Anybody? Yeah, let's give it up for props. This is a pretty straightforward assignment, just draw some objects. Here's my music-themed prop sheet, some guitars and a drum set, posters. Again, this would be from the same world as this guy. I don't have too much to say about props, just that if your character design involves a prop or two, maybe like a weapon or a backpack, make sure the prop looks good with the character. The prop can also give more insight into who the character is. I imagine this kid is like the lead guitarist in his band, so I made his guitar a crazy, attention-grabbing shape and gave it a neon green strap. Now for the architecture assignment, draw like a building or an interior scene. I designed the interior of the kid's garage. Maybe he has it all set up like a recording studio with lots of rugs, a PC, band instruments everywhere, and posters. One thing I did on this piece, actually, was I blocked out all the walls and some of the basic shapes in Blender first, and then I drew on top of that. That way I didn't have to freehand the perspective and draw the perspective lines and stuff, so even if you're a 2D artist, it's worth it to learn 3D software because it can be a really useful tool. Okay, back to characters. If you're someone who likes fashion and designing outfits for your characters, you'll like this one. This assignment is to take one of your previous character designs and draw different outfits that they might wear throughout different parts in the story. The story that lives in your head. I once again used this character for the assignment. I have his default outfit here, and then I designed an outfit he might wear at home in his garage working on music. And then another for when he might be on stage performing. Keep in mind that just like props, clothes say a lot about a character and the type of person they are. Take me for instance, I got some pants, and a green shirt, and that tells you that well, it tells you something, obviously. Last assignment. We finished with monsters. For this, make up your own creature, or some kind of alien, or mythical beast, and design it. Bonus points if it's creepy or scary, because that adds to the challenge. Now that we've done animals and villains, and talked about shape language, you should have everything you need to tackle this assignment. Here's my first one. I wanted to draw a big spiky thing. Maybe it stabs things with its carapace. Here's a guy for scale. Now, you might think the monster assignment is oddly specific, but there are concept artists who specialize in creature design, and I quickly realized why that's the case because working on this assignment was uniquely challenging. After spending all this time drawing mostly human anatomy and proportions, as well as a couple animals, I noticed that designing a new anatomical structure is very different. But one of the tips we were given was to reference real-life creatures when designing your own creature. I came up with the, quote, orb dragon for my second design. I was thinking of a giant bug-like creature that spits pink acid at its prey, and maybe it has a bulbous bioluminescent dump truck. I referenced praying mantis anatomy on this one. And that's it. We're done. That's all. Obviously, there's plenty more to say about every assignment, about anatomy, color theory, storytelling. A lot of these different skills overlap with character design. This video could be 12 hours, if I wanted it to, but obviously not. But hopefully this video gives you a brief rundown of what a character design class looks like, at least the one I took. Comment below if you plan to do any of these assignments. And thanks for watching. Bye!